So Vegeta vs Thor dropped. What did I think of it? I liked it. It's pretty good. Is it great? No, not particularly, but it's a perfectly average flying brick fight with a few decent enough moments. Also, because I am extremely smart and have the smoothest brain you've ever seen, I completely forgot to mention, you can go check out Biff's review, which might not be up by the time this review goes up. It depends, but when it does come up, I will put a link in the description to his review. So if you're watching this not on the day it's coming out, or maybe a bit late, you can go check there, and it might actually be there by then. I don't actually know. Yeah, we'll just have to see. Starting with the analysis, it's okay. I like Thor starting with a bit of mythology, love me some good old anthropological elements, even if it's barely touched on for obvious reasons. But some of the pacing is weird. They talk about Thor getting banished, and then with no transition, Thor's body is really durable. Like, there's no transition between those 2 points. The scream that plays with Thor and Hercules arm wrestle, I want to hope was meant to be funny, but also takes away from the epicness of the feat listing. They then do another weird transition where they transition nicely into Thor's lesson and learning to be a hero, but instead of leaning into who he has fought with something like, as a hero, Thor fought many great firsts of the universe like Thanos, they just go straight into he fought Thanos, which is just a weird cut as well. Also, maybe a little weirdness with how they present things, which is not just the analysis, but also with the conclusion. They say Hulk is able to destroy the Marvel Universe 120 times over, but then use that as a multiplier? That just confuses me, like, as if scaling to Worldbreaker, who is 120 times universal, doesn't make you also 120 times universal, but instead makes you a 120, like, what? Are they saying, like, is the logic meant to be that the Worldbreaker is a 120 times multiplier on top of regular Hulk? Because they did not explain that at all. They said that Worldbreaker can destroy the universe 120 times over, but then at the end, this number is not 120 times the size of the universe, it's 120 times 2 times the size of the universe. Like, what's the 2 from? Is Hyperion twice the strength of Worldbreaker Hulk? It genuinely does confuse me a little bit. Like, by this logic of scaling to someone means you're equal to their multiplier, or their multiplier, fuck. By that logic, if Topper was equal to Blue Evolved, wouldn't his power level of 13,290 universes become a multiplier? So you'd multiply Vegeta's power by that instead? Because that's like what they've done with the Hulk. It's just weird. They then also say Thor is close to Vegeta's power, as if he isn't 10 times stronger, and then gets another 10 times boost with Warrior's Madness. They say that surviving an attack that aged him and Mephisto trying to eat his soul count as existence erasure resistance? I'm pretty sure the first one is just the fact that Asgardians don't die of old age. And without context, Mephisto consuming Thor's soul doesn't immediately translate to erasing it to me. It sounds like, well, eating it. You don't erase stuff that you eat. So it's weird. Like, it feels like they need more context to make that whole logic make sense. It's also weird because that bomb he stood in the middle of while absorbing it, that was all he needed to resist Hakai. At the very least, this cutaway was not the worst thing ever. They didn't do quirky slapstick like I expected from the big axe being there, and the ending was alright. The bits where they're just listing off insane shit were strangely hype, and the editing, I mean, come on, the editing is great. Of course it's great. Vegeta's biggest moment off the top of my head in his analysis is the really predictable boomstick baths moment. But hey, it calls back to a joke from the last episode, and Dummy is in it. It does feel a bit to me like they're trying a little bit to dodge the fact that Vegeta's techniques and abilities almost never work, or they say things that I don't know the validity behind. They bring up how he helped Goku topple Frieza, but he didn't actively help Goku in that fight. They hype up Final Explosion, which has only worked half of the time it has been used, and the second time is really dumb and bad. They say he got God Ki on his own, which I just don't recall if that was ever explained how he got God Ki, and also Blue Evolved exists, and I feel like that should be the point they bring up Vegeta accomplishing something Goku couldn't. They say he can slice you up with the Spirit Sword for some reason when he's never done that. They hype up Ultra Ego as if it isn't a total failure of a form, and they bring up Hakai without showing any moment at all where Vegeta has ever used it. Probably because he's so bad at Hakai that he's genuinely worse than Goku, and has only ever destroyed a rock. Like, this just feels weird because anyone who hasn't read the manga is going to think that's total bullshit because they don't show any evidence that Vegeta can use Hakai in the episode. It's just weird. They just show Beerus doing it. But then they bring up Vegeta's arc, which I really like, and all is forgiven. Even if the wording of he became a husband and a father, and Vegeta got a taste of that himself when he hooked up with Bulma, is really awkward. It feels like it's not accounting for the other line's presence. Like, he became a husband and a father, and then also Vegeta got a taste of that for himself. What is the that referring to? Grammatically, that feels all fucked. Vegeta's analysis ending is also neat, even if the he may not always win line makes me chuckle as a Dragon Ball fan. He knows it really should be he may not always lose, because then the fight. I'm not totally chuffed about the start. Thor's walking around with a tree for some reason. He did in fact lift the whole thing off the ground. Who fucking knows what he was going to do? Maybe he plans to shove it up his ass or something. He sees Vegeta powering up into Super Saiyan for some reason, but then like an asshole throws his hammer straight past Vegeta's head before he does. What a douche. The part with Thor's a dickhead is not my problem. Speaking of dickhead, Thor somehow knows Vegeta's an alien and asks him what business he has, and instead of Vegeta being like, the business is I live here, he threatens him, probably because of the hammer, and then Thor eggs him on into a battle. Now that's all fine, but Thor spends the majority of this battle just unreasonably being aggressive. Like, he starts the fight in a way that makes it seem like he's just being a troll and wants to have a bit of fun, but then the stuff he says in the fight is like what he'd say to a villain. He's calling Vegeta a cur, he's being really hateful. Like, Vegeta's just a guy who was minding his own business and got reasonably angry when you threw a hammer at him, and then you egged him on and joked when he was upset about that. The only exception to Thor treating Vegeta like a supervillain is when he compliments Vegeta near the start. It's just weird that like Vegeta's treated as the bad guy by Thor, when really Thor's the villain of this whole setup. He also pulls out Yarnbjorn, which feels like a weird choice when he's already winning, and I just don't really find this moment that good looking. I don't know, Yarnbjorn feels like a pointless addition, and it's not as if it's just, when he swings it, it looks a bit weird. It's not as bad as his weak-ass explosion of Vegeta immediately going Blue Evolution and Hakkaiing the axe. I don't know. I really would have preferred Vegeta going through at least Super Saiyan 2, then Blue, then Ego. A few extra steps because it'd feel more like Vegeta. You know, like the Broly fight, which is the latest piece of animated media depicting how Vegeta fights in canon. I get time constraints and all, but man, I just wish Vegeta got to use more than the two forms of him I like the least. But like I know, I prefer Blue Evolution to regular Blue because at least that is a form unique to Vegeta that he learned to do on screen. And from this point onward, Vegeta will do nothing but quote abridged and canon Vegeta. Some of them are cool, but I wish he got to say something more, like, you know, be creative, write your own dialogue. I also don't get why he says am the Prince of all Saiyans instead of I am the Prince of all Saiyans. Maybe I'm just missing something, or maybe the I is just really poorly audio balanced. And don't tell me he said and the Prince of all Saiyans, because that'd mean his total line is I have evolved beyond gods and the Prince of all Saiyans. But this moment is pretty cool. Vegeta gets in a decent set of slow and meaty hits before going into some high-speed fighting, and there's a really nice Big Bang attack to finish it off. Yeah, it feels like the Big Bang attack didn't do much, but, you know, Thor did absorb it, so I can't accept it, and it does look cool. I really do love Thor throwing Mjolnir, and then because Vegeta knows he can throw and bring it back, he dodges and tries to stop it on the way back when he has more time to brace himself. But then while holding it, Thor just stops pulling it in, and it drags Vegeta into the water. The way Vegeta laughs and then goes into that scream is hilarious. I love this moment. It might be my favorite in the fight. The impact of Thor charging into the water is strangely hard too. Then comes Alter Ego. No point complaining about how quickly it went to there. Let's just move on, because I do love the sheer power emanating from them being so great the water in the lake is unable to return to place and is constantly being pushed open. The headbutts were fun too. We get the does an X like you feel fear, which is just weird. I mean, Vegeta has met gods. He knows that they have emotions and such. Yes, it's just a weird boast. Vegeta gets a rather lame combo, but this Ki Blast is great. Thor's no fear only thunder is fine, but I would have preferred no fear only madness, but not bad. The following madness vs. Ego fight is pretty cool. It's nothing special, but it's pretty cool. It's a generic flying brick moment, but a well animated generic flying brick moment. Then we get a decently cool death. I don't know why this Vegeta effect is pitch black here, especially when it's purple in the previous shot, but Vegeta's line is cool, and we get the final flash against God Blast. Vegeta instant transmissioning his way away from it is cool, but then the God Blast hits a rock and... really? That's all you were going to do? Thor is a guy who, while holding back, can destroy stars and other galaxies by punching you in the face, and this is his God Blast. Lame. Just throwing his hammer in Thor vs. Wonder Woman was more impactful than that. I don't know, it just feels so wimpy. Genuinely, you could have just had an instant transmission sound softly playing in the background over Vegeta getting engulfed while the huge explosion comes up to make a fake out, which would have been genuinely great. Especially because it would make the first of two fake outs, because this episode does have a fake out, which is actually pretty good. It didn't get me, but it was good, because Death Battle always do fake outs. The way the music goes down and the episode actually goes into the sort of pacing we see in most Death Battle kills makes it a proper fake out for once. Still, I knew it would be a fake out, so yeah. Thor grabbing Vegeta leads to this raw as fuck hand-drawn bit, which is awesome. Thor being unharmed would be way lamer than showing him all fucked up but still going anyway. That's cool. And Vegeta continuing to try and go even in spite of that is also awesome. Then Thor does a really fucking lame MCU reference, like, what, man, he literally did aim for your head. He's literally aiming for your fucking head with an attack that is going to also hit your everything. Look at the size of it. He can't be talking to himself either, that's not a comic Thor thing. That's so random. There's no reason for him to have said that. It's delivered with the energy of a man who's beating himself up over forgetting to buy eggs for the 4th week in a row, too. Like, he might as well have just gone in and said, "Bring me Thanos!" And the death is alright. It looks a bit silly, but I like what they went with. It's a bit more unique than most people I think were expecting, including me. Then Thor cheers about killing a man who honestly did nothing wrong but get aggro at a guy who threw a weapon that could kill him in one hit near his face twice. Also, recording this after the fact, I can't believe I forgot to mention, that final flash is fucking awesome. Like, not just because of the fucking scream line he did, I'll bring up later in the video how good I think the voice acting was, but man, look at that thing. That is great. A big purple laser with that shout that engulfs Thor, and these are what's a pretty decent fake out and that really cool hand draw. How can you not love that final flash? That is a fucking good final flash, man. I don't know if I've seen a better final flash in Versus, honestly. That's just a great fucking final flash. And I like final flash, so I'm glad it's cool too. And that was the episode. That was good. It's nothing great. It really doesn't do anything with the actual characters, playing more as just their power sets, but at least it's pretty and has some good moments. It's enjoyable, but if you came to really see Thor and Vegeta, you probably won't get that. Vegeta just speaks in references for the most part, which is kind of lazy and a bit tiring. Like it happened with Obi-Wan, I don't need to see it happen more and more. I want Vegeta to act like Vegeta, but not so literally as to just quote himself, because Vegeta doesn't do that in fights. He doesn't just say the same shit he's already said, he comes up with new things. Except Big Bang Attack and Final Flash, because I know there are people who have said that those are just reference lines when that's just what Vegeta says when he does it. It's not that I outright hate the characterization, it's just it didn't really feel like, at least Thor. Vegeta had the tone right, but Thor strangely felt like a really hateful character with a real personal beef with Vegeta, which just feels wrong. I would have infinitely, and I do mean infinitely, have preferred if Vegeta and Thor were friendly to one another, as if they recognized each other's power and sort of mutually agreed to have a good fight, because that's just what they enjoy. And as the fight goes on, they do get more aggressive and vicious as they stop holding back, but this leads to a moment where they go full power and they stop to just laugh about how they wasted time holding back because they couldn't sense the full depths of their opponent's power. Now that they know they can go all out against their opponent and have a good fight, they just go full pelt. Something that feels more like Thor and Vegeta, given their enjoyment of battle, is the part of the theme that works best in the animation itself. It also matches with how Vegeta is like, just, you know, generally. Like, he likes a good fight, and like, especially with how he developed, being more friendly against someone who can give him a good fight and is not being too mean to him would work, and Thor also likes a good fight. And like, it's not like any other part of the theme is going to work in the animation. It's not like Thor can be super prideful when learning not to be that is part of his lesson to become worthy, and it's not like there being royalty can really be used. There are a few things that I basically have nothing wrong with though in the animation. One thing, the animation itself looks really nice. It looks really good, and aside from some weird bits like the black effect and hammer crotch, it doesn't have any really off moments to me. I do think it was really oddly small scale. Like, they show Vegeta creating these massive shockwaves in the analysis, and Thor is a guy who's more than able to punch planets apart light years away. But this has less scale than either of Thor's previous episodes that involve a guy being thrown into the sun and a moon being blown up. I don't know why this didn't go as raw as it could have. Hell, Vegeta's previous episode also went further with that moon punch. It's just strange. Still, it looks really good. The voice acting is also really good. What a fucking shocker. Lanny did an amazing job as Vegeta, as if that's a fucking stunning revelation. This guy pulls off every scream just perfectly. He channels that raw cuck energy flawlessly. Jonah Scott, surprisingly to me, pulled off a way better performance than he did in Thor vs. Wonder Woman. Not that he was bad in that, but he didn't have any Thorness to him beyond angry. And while in this episode he still mostly is just angry piss baby for most of the fight, and has a few lame deliveries, his jovial nature at the start is the most Thor-like moment in this animation in terms of personality. Aside from, like, his defiance to die against Vegeta's final flash, you know, I don't want to die, because I've decided not to. Then there's the music. I kind of love Princess of Pride. The lyrics are kind of stupid to me, like most of these lyrics only apply to MCU Thor to my knowledge, and doesn't really have anything but a chorus and a few lines here and there. But I like how it sounds. It works for me. I dig it. It's probably my favorite of the season as a song so far. Even if the previous episode works better in the fight and is far more cinematic, I guess one is better as a song, and one is better as a track in a series OST, I guess. As a lifelong metalhead, I do distinguish those in a sense sometimes. But then there's Thor Speed. 20 duodecillion times the speed of light. It happened. The man got faster again. How can I dislike this episode where Thor got faster again? The last bit of banter between the hosts is neat too. And that was Thor vs. Vegeta. I liked it. It's a bit of a generic episode. It has nothing really standing out in my eyes, but I prefer it to Wanda vs. Zatanna, and I think it's overall a good episode. A solid 7, which is a good score despite what some people who only like 9-10 scores would tell you. And I know, yeah, Nemesis, why are you nitpicking so much? I'm so sick of those comments, I swear to fucking God. It's like, someone could be like, there's a massive plot hole that disproves the entire existence of this storyline, and Death Battle fans are gonna come in like, oh, why are you nitpicking? With things as major as characterization and choreography become nitpicks, I really gotta wonder, what isn't a nitpick? Next time, meanwhile, is one that people have already been cringe about, and fuck off for that. If you're being cringe about it, and I'm not gonna name any names, because I don't want people to take me saying don't to do that, and then do it, because they know I don't want them to, don't be cringe. If you decide to be cringe, you deserve to spend a whole week stubbing your toe every time you turn a corner.
Thou fightst well for a
women like yourself.
I don't think you've ever known a woman like me.